So today on Weaksauce Reviews, we're going to be comparing the Avery Jenkins 2-line destroyer to the new Paul Macbeth Kong. See what happens. You know, as far as the discs feel and look, they both feel and look similar. I got a feeling that the Kong's going to be a little bit beefier than what I particularly like. So if you've got a noodle arm like me and you know, Weaksauce is your game, then let's see how these fly for Weaksauce throwers. Alright guys, so who wants to know what a Kong throw is like? Well, got 3 of them right here. I'm going to throw a few other discs along with it too. I'm going to throw a few others first that I don't really care about as much, more just for comparison and warm-up purposes. But I've got a couple different weights here. I've got the one here. This one's a 167, 169 right here. Then next we've got the 170, 172, and then do have a max weight 173, 174 right here as well. But I'm going to save those for a few throws in here, but let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, so first off I'm going to start with a couple Teedevils. These are both 166, 165s. Both typically throw a fair amount like a semi-flippy destroyer. Then I've just got a new boss here. It's a 143 I'm going to try out. And then for the Kongs here, I got a 167 and a 168 2-line destroyer here. Then I'm going to go ahead and get to the Kongs. Never thrown this disc here before, but again, 143 boss, still has the label on it. Just want to see what it does. We got pretty much a straight headwind here right now as well. Okay, that one looked pretty flippy, although it came out of my hand a little turned over as well. Then try the first of one of the Teedevils here. And that also looked pretty similar. Let's try another Teedevil. Okay. Well, now it's time for, let's try out these destroyers here. These are both 167 and 168. Let's see how they fly. Got a bit of a headwind here. Both of those look pretty good. They held up to the wind and both left decently. Here's one that I kind of semi-retired that's also the same weight. We'll see if this one holds up anymore. It's gone. Alright, well, let's go ahead and try the Kongs now. This is the 167, 168. Yeah, it's a little too high. Let's go ahead and try the 170, 172 now. too high as well. All right, well, let's see if I can get this one down. This is the max weight one. Didn't turn over and go nearly as far as the 2-line AJs did. Got a couple others for comparison here. We'll go ahead with a follow destroyer, which is also in the 168 range. This is actually a 158 pre-embossed Macbeth. This one here is a 3-line, also 168. This one's barely been thrown. And then one of the more recently, this is a Jennings embossed destroyer, but it's a 158, a little lighter. First philo. Forex. With the 3-line here. Now the Jennings. Yeah, that's noticeably more flippy. Went pretty far though. Just for comparison also, brought out an X4. This one's actually a 174. This is a Corvette, it's a 166. And this is also a Corvette, it's a 168. That rolled at the end. Okay, so after rounding them up here, interesting fact, even though the Kongs were thrown poorly, they only got out to about 270 even thrown high, and they definitely crashed hard left with the big hyzer. The furthest ones, however, ended up being another 20 paces further. It was a 2-line, a 2-line, a 3-line, and the one that I normally bag as well is the 158 Macbeth. This one here is normally in my bag, and as well as this one here. These other two I've only thrown just a handful of times. They're basically for backups or field practice. This one here I may have only thrown 5 or 10 times ever. Okay, so after rounding them up the second time, same thing held true. I mean, yeah, they all dove a little harder to the left with the tailwind, which was expected, but basically the Kongs for me ended up being about 20 paces shorter than almost all the other discs I would consider like my bomber discs. Two of the discs that ended up being just as, actually the furthest away as they did going into the headwind, was this 2-line, this 2-line, and this Jennings embossed destroyer, which would be just a current run destroyer as far as I'm aware. Well, at least the Macbeth series. This one here is a 158, and these are both 167, 168. So in my experience here, I mean, I didn't bring any forces or anything with me today, but or bosses, but to me they seem to fly more like just a similar weight boss, or a force potentially. I mean, maybe if you've got the arm for it, it's gonna do better for you, but at least my experience with what the 2 and 3 lines throw like, I'm getting much more distance out of those. Having said that, pretty much most of the time I'm throwing a fairly flippy destroyer or something that's, you know, what I would consider kind of neutral, or maybe a Shrike instead. So I don't know, based on what I'm seeing here, I would say it's going to be more of a disc for wanting to get around corners that you can count on, more than probably a big bomber disc, at least for my arm. So anyway, yeah, the first go around on that, they were thrown way too high, but oddly enough, even when thrown lower, the results were still pretty similar. I mean, they just weren't getting as far. I'd have to probably turn them over, you know, like this, potentially, to get a huge S out of them. But you know, most people, I think, that like the bomb destroyers don't want to have to throw them on a massive anhyzer. I mean, maybe some do, but you know, it's all just preference, I guess. But anyway, that's it for this. Hope you enjoyed it.